And Hello, my spooky yet adorable friends. I'm Arlo, and I'm here to give you my thoughts on Mina the Hollower. Many thanks to Yacht Club Games for providing me with a review code. And also, I want to note that I'm having some issues with my capture setup, but since I was playing before release, I didn't have access to anyone else's footage, so I had to go with mine. So any stutters that you see in this footage, any frame rate issues, it's purely my PC. Trust me, this game runs flawlessly 100% of the time. In my experience thus far, you even get 120 FPS on Switch too. So yeah, with that said, let's get started. I'm a huge fan of 2D Zelda, and it is such a shame that Nintendo doesn't make them more frequently, and hasn't really made a traditional one in an extremely long time. Normally, you would expect indies to fill that niche, but they really don't as often as you would expect. Even with simple graphics, it is deceptively tricky to design a 2D Zelda-like that even comes close to reaching the very high bar set by the source material. Well, with Mina the Hollower, Yacht Club Games hasn't just accomplished this lofty goal, they've also enriched the experience with so many modern gaming conventions and created something that feels both intimately nostalgic and satisfyingly unique. Mina looks and plays just like Link's Awakening or the Oracle games. Like they've really nailed it. It's an immediately familiar experience, even at a glance, but it's been really juiced up. And it takes a lot of pages from the Souls-like book, which is just like 2D Zelda plus Souls-like. It's a match made in heaven. When you defeat enemies, you earn currency, which you can use to upgrade your stats. You bone up, which is pretty funny. You've got these little checkpoint hideouts, which are kind of a mix between bonfires and Resident Evil save rooms, which is positively genius. You burrow down into them, and you've got all your tools and resources down here, which is really fun. Then you've got your refillable healing item, which only works when you fill a gauge by hitting enemies, kind of Bloodborne style. It's this really great system where even if you're about to die, you can potentially claw your way back by playing well enough. And you choose how far to fill the meter before using the vial, so it's kind of a risk and reward thing as well. And then there's just a much bigger emphasis on combat than Zelda usually is. There are multiple weapons to choose from, which offer distinct fighting styles. You got faster and weaker to slower and stronger, very fast, aggressive enemies you gotta really pay attention to and learn. All the Souls-like stuff you would expect, except it is very fast. Instead of a dodge roll with iframes, Mina can burrow temporarily, which is a really interesting spin on the idea. It can take a while to really get it down, especially since you have to jump first before you burrow, so there's like a little delay. You gotta plan like a second ahead rather than hitting the button at just the right time when the enemy blow is about to land. It feels really good to get it down though. I will admit there is something of a learning curve here. There really is. This is a challenging game, even from the start. Definitely one of those games where you might hit a wall and start getting pretty frustrated. I know I did. In true Souls fashion, when you die, you drop your bones and you have to get them without dying again, or you lose them. And yeah, it really stinks to just keep losing them over and over again. Just keep navigating the same area with the same super aggressive enemies. And it's this little 8-bit game with limited space to maneuver, very simple without a lot of room for error. But just like a good Souls-like, if you push through, you get over the hump, it starts to click, starts to feel more doable, a lot more satisfying, and then that feeling of satisfaction just ramps up and up and up until you are just having a blast. And there are a ton of difficulty settings that let you make these teeny little tweaks to how hard or easy the game is. Normally, I don't like this kind of thing. I don't want to have to design the game for the designers, and with Souls-likes especially, I am sadly one of those guys who's happy when there is no easy mode, because it means there is a challenge, a singular challenge to overcome, period. But some of these settings are so subtle that you kind of forget you've toggled them, so it doesn't really feel like you've nerfed the whole experience. You've just kind of smoothed things out for yourself. The game makes sure that anyone can play it, whether they want things to be crazy, crazy hard or easy enough for someone who just wants to casually stroll through the game for the exploration and the story and stuff. And on that note, Mina's world is a joy to explore. I got to talk to one of the developers, and they mentioned how the game started out so much smaller, but then just ballooned out of control because they were so inspired, and it turned into this huge adventure. And yeah, I can see that. This may look like like a Game Boy game, but it is massive. I mean, it's really along the lines of those old Zelda games. They feel so impossibly huge in scope, even though they're in such a small package. And Mina is just like that and more. The world feels genuinely sprawling. You can tackle most of the game in any order. Like, you can just pick a direction and you will find tons of stuff to do. When compared to Zelda, there's less of an emphasis on getting new abilities to progress, that lock and key kind of thing. But this gives the game a huge sense of freedom. You're definitely going to have a harder time tackling certain areas, if you kind of go out of the intended order, just because you're going to be underleveled. But that just offers even more challenge if you're really looking for it. And wandering into an area, not sure if you can make much progress, and managing to work your way through is just thrilling. Again, it's so much like a traditional Souls-like. You've always got so many options to choose from. And even if you're not quite getting that, like, oh, you got the hook shot, so now you can reach this ledge over here kind of thing, the game can gate off progress in more subtle ways, or rather, hide progress behind secrets. It can feel really easy to get lost and kind of overwhelmed, but this is where patience is rewarded. In Osix, the main hub town, you can read newspapers and talk to NPCs to get little clues about where you should go next, which is one of those things that feels really simple, and yet it has a huge impact on the feel of the game. You're never held by the hand and directed to go anywhere, but getting these subtle hints and following them at your own discretion feels amazing. It's just incredible to have a world this big, like this big buffet, and I feel like I'm driving the adventure. And even if you're not getting these big lock and key puzzle items Zelda style, you're still constantly gaining access to new weapons and tools. Just tons of stuff to work with and change the way the game plays. There's a whole trinket system where you can apply gameplay modifiers, and after you choose your starting weapon at the beginning, you'll unlock other weapons as you go. So you're always given all these tools, all these strategies to play with. It's so customizable. And for a world this big, it is so incredibly dense. That's the word that constantly pops into my mind. Dense. Any given screen will be so packed with secrets and items to collect, all these statues to break and things to open up. You can burrow in and out of holes and tunnels, so you've got all these different vertical levels and spaces within spaces, and puzzles will span all these different levels. You're always finding cracked stuff that when you hit it, it breaks open these big spaces. And just like our good old friend Dark Souls, you're always opening up shortcuts to make traversal faster. It's that feeling when you're super deep into a scary area, you're so far from home, so to speak. But then you find a rope to drop down, or a warp, or a tunnel or something, and suddenly, boom, you're back. Like, this really is that deliciously satisfying Dark Souls 1 wraparound kind of level design, and it's the whole game. And the level design itself is just impeccable. Loads of puzzles, traversal challenges, and lots of platforming. Mina's got a built-in jump, and between that and the burrow ability, there's a really big focus on raw platforming. Kinda like the combat, it can feel a little overwhelming at first, since this is a little 8-bit game without a lot of margin for error, but once you get it down and you're zipping around everywhere, it feels great. There's such a sense of fluidity to it. Then sprinkled throughout the world, there are countless NPCs to talk to get quests from. There's a huge variety of activities. Just so much stuff to do. This world, it's so alive, so dense, and the overall style is infinitely charming. It's a very spooky game. The entire thing is very gothic horror, very Bloodborne, Castlevania, but it's also all cute animal characters. I always love media with colorful characters that still dips into darker themes, and there's a lot of grim stuff in here. The writing is excellent, the story and world building are compelling, the pixel art is everything you could possibly want, the music, it's all so lively and fun. I'd call this maybe a half complaint. This really does emulate the look and the resolution of a Game Boy game, so it can be a little hard to look at on a big screen, or if you're sitting too close. It really works best on a small screen, but that just means that it is perfect for handheld play. On Switch or Steam Deck, it's gonna look really beautiful, really easy on the eyes, and I don't know, I feel like I could talk for hours about just how thoughtfully this game was designed. Even more than just the items items in the world. It's like it's everything. So many little features, these subtle little considerations, all these ideas that really invigorate the genre. So frictionless, despite the pretty high level of challenge. They spent a very long time on this game, and it is always obvious. It's obvious that they just pumped everything they had into it. It's one of those experiences where you feel like you're feasting the whole way through. You feel spoiled. And I'll admit, I still haven't even beaten the whole darn thing yet. It's too big. People are saying this can be a 20, 30-hour game, depending on your pace. Just a buffet of Zelda-style goodness. And because it's so dense and so customizable, I could see replay value being very, very good. I feel like I'm gonna come back to it in a year or two and have just as much fun my second time through, especially if I want to toy with more difficulty options. I really cannot recommend Mina the Hollower enough. It was absolutely worth the wait. It's absolutely a worthy follow-up to Shovel Knight. This is one of those indie games that just has so much love packed into it. You can feel the passion oozing out of the screen. It makes sense that it took this long because you can tell that they made sure every single thing about it lands perfectly. They made it as fun as they possibly could. If you're like me and you really miss that classic 2D Zelda format, this game is a must-have. And the heavy platforming and difficult combat could be a problem for someone looking for a more casual experience, but again, with all these difficulty options, you just cannot go wrong. And even if you've never played Link's Awakening or any of those games, this is a game that just delivers. So thanks again to Yacht Club Games for the early copy. I will tell you fine folks right now, you done good. This is seriously one for the record books. You knocked it out of the stinking park. Thank you all for watching, and have yourself a real digging mouse of a day. I don't know.